change for those of you that did not receive an email. The council is going to have a special council meeting right now. And then after that, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we will move on to the budget workshop. It's going to put us off, hopefully not more than about 20 minutes. So I apologize for those of you that came on time and didn't receive the email. All right, so we will open the special meeting of the Ellsworth City Council. Today is April 3rd, 2025. All councilors are present. Item number 2, council order number 040300, public hearing and action on the request of the Public Works Director for the approval of purchasing necessary hardware associated with the Maine DOT High Street project. Mike.
Good afternoon, Council. Mike Harris, Public Works Director. Come to you tonight to request that we be able to expend funds to purchase manhole rims and covers and water boxes that are necessary for the High Street paving project that starts Sunday. This money comes from money that was reallocated from the Water Street Pump Station project. It's bond money that was reallocated from the Water Street Pump Station project, which you guys approved a few months ago, and set aside for the High Street DOT project. The money includes the money for these purchases, as well as the money that we would end up paying, reimbursing DOT because they are raising and lowering all of the manhole rims and covers and all of the water boxes in the project at whatever the cost was per project. And so we reallocated that money for this, and now it's time for us to buy the manhole rims and covers and the water boxes, so I'll have them when they lower the structures and put new ones back on when they raise them back up.
Any questions? Steve?
So the $300,000 round number that was in the DOT project, and I stress the word round, I heard 270, I remember 330.
It's like 353, I think, was the total amount allocated.
Okay, so that was just the labor, not including the hardware?
It's both. It's both. All I'm saying is now we want to expend some of that 353 to go buy the stuff. You already approved the reallocation of the money.
Right.
But I'm coming to you now to make sure I am good to go to purchase the stuff we set the money aside for.
But the part of the DOT project that wasn't included in their bid?
The structure, the actual hardware was not included in their bid. Just the labor price for raising and lowering the structures is all that was included in their bid.
But what we approved to reallocate included both the bid
Yes.
and this?
Yes,
Did we come in close to what was anticipated?
I think we're under.
Under?
Yeah, the manhole prices went down.
Is this bidded out, or is this one manufacturer makes all these?
Nope, I got prices from 3, well, one of them didn't give me the price back on the water box, but I went to 3. I went to EJ Prescott, TI Sales, American Concrete up in Bangor, and then I also checked with FW Webb and Ferguson's to try and get water box pricing. But yeah, so there was multiple prices, and then the ones that I'm recommending were the lowest prices.
So for clarity, the DOT project, there was some chat when this started that when Glenn was the city manager here, there was some chat that he wanted Public Works to do it at a finance meeting, and I put up a fuss and said, hey, let one contractor do it all. Let's not get into that box of trouble here.
And I agreed with you.
Yeah, let's not get into that situation. So I'm a little confused about the original amount that was in their bid. I thought that we had to pay the contractor to do it all.
We're paying, well, DOT's paying the contractor, we're gonna reimburse DOT.
Right.
But it's just for the labor, it didn't include the hardware. And that was from the get-go. Mark LaGrosse is the DOT rep that we were dealing with, and from the get-go, that's how it was. We met with him multiple times. In the contract, it clearly in the current contract that's starting now, that's already been awarded, it clearly states that we will be providing the hardware.
I just want to go on record as saying that's creating, if there's function problems with the hardware, now you're into a wrestling match with who's responsible. Why aren't we just paying one person to do it all?
They wouldn't do that. Mark, the DOT would not do that. I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, it just gets us into trouble.
If I may, so we've always done it this way, we've always bought our materials, and the DOT doesn't want to be responsible for purchasing the materials, because then if there's something missing, something wrong, they're held to it.
No.
So we buy it, plus it actually is less expensive for us to do
It
it
is.
this way too, because we don't have a markup.
But
And-
if there's a problem with the material, now you're gonna go on a ghost chase.
Not really, because we just, he'll go back to EJ Prescott and get it fixed like that, because it's all local. We don't
Yeah.
order it out.
And
It's all ordered.
so the first year, I think it was the first or second year I started working here, they did High Street.
Yep.
And we bought all the manhole rims and covers for that
Always
particular
do.
job. So, yeah,
Yep.
it's just the way they want to do it, so. But they're rocking and rolling Sunday night, they're going, so I just want to make sure we get our stuff and it's ready. And we wanted to wait until, the middle of March to expend funds, because that's when we started seeing an increase in funds into the city, so that's why we waited until now to do it.
Mike, where are we purchasing the three 12-inch insertion valves? There's nobody.
EJ Prescott.
It's EJ Prescott, okay.
And the
That
reason you
wasn't-
don't see multiple prices for that is because they're the only ones that do live main insertion valve.
Okay.
Like they do it, we don't shut the water off, like they do it live for the insertion valves. They've always been the ones that do it.
Okay, this was advertised as a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak on this or ask questions of the council or Mike? Seeing none, public hearing is closed, I missed. What would the council like? Motion? Tammy, thank you.
Move to authorize the purchase of 55 manhole rims and covers from EJ Prescott in the amount of $23,047.20, 40 water boxes from TI Sales in the amount of $7,360, and three 12-inch insertion valves, including installation to EJ Prescott in the amount of $57,321, with funding to come from the reallocated 2023 general obligation bond funds designated for the High Street DOT project. That's a lot.
Good job. Second.
Thank you.
Much easier. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Item number 3, council order number 040301, public hearing and potential action on a proposed ordinance to more effectively control nuisance odors within the city of Ellsworth. This ordinance will outline how to determine an objectionable odor, compliance requirements, and enforcement procedures. Charlie?
Yeah, we've been at this one a few times now, and we took the council feedback from the last council meeting, which I know we wanted to make sure that we weren't waiting until the very next council meeting to get there. So the team, Robert, Tim Pease from Redwood Winchell, we took in council feedback, incorporated it into the new smell ordinance, and very confident that we're going to get this in line with what we need it to be for the city. So looking forward to moving forward on this one and continuing to try to provide best-in-class service for Ellsworth and containing odors of all types in the city. So I'll send it to Robert for his piece of it.
Good evening, Robert Grant, Code Enforcement Officer. In your packet is the odor ordinance that we made the amendments that were asked of us, and I had Tim Peace, work on the wording a little bit better than I could have to make it a little tighter legally. But if there are any questions I'm happy to answer, or Tim can answer.
Does anyone have questions? Okay. This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Oh, sorry. You can do it after, okay, because I've already opened it, thank you. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance change?
So I'm Tim Stone, 30 Old Mill Road, Ellsworth. Looking over it, I'm not sure it has the teeth that I was hoping it would have. So maybe you could just help me with that, and understanding that it actually has teeth. Looks like this is just, to me, reading through the details, it looks like this could be another way to just kick the can down the road again and again and again and again. It doesn't have anything about repeated offenses over and over and over again. It has the same kind of language we had before, where if they do something, then they get some kind of violation, but if they work on it, then everything's okay. And we've been working on it and working on it and working on it to absurdity. So I'm a little concerned about the language. I don't think it's enough. Maybe you guys can help me understand what it is. Thanks.
I'd like to second that.
Anyone else like to speak? And then we'll bring up some other, so we can answer questions all at once. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Would you like to speak to that, Robert?
Or we could also have Tim speak to it. I'm not sure that, or I guess this would be a Tim question, actually, how this isn't an ordinance that's going against any particular business or entity, so, I know we had a test case here, sort of. So, keeping that in mind, we tried to do the best we could as far as making something we thought would be effective, and also not targeting any one business, and not trying to single anybody out. So I don't know if, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm happy to maybe Tim in a second, but I think, and this is a new smell ordinance, and the original one is extremely broad, which is, I think, why in the past there was a consent agreement agreed to, but this is not relative to a specific business. Sure, it's informed by prior experience, but having reviewed other smell ordinances across the state that really want to have a more defined process, sure, in butanol, and you can use these things, and now we're certified with that, so that Robert has that authority, but also a reasonableness standard. Giving Robert and the code office more discretion, if, whether it's Maine Organics or whether it's any business that emits an odor like that we have a pretty clearly defined process to address that within the code office through multiple layers. And I think this does that, and much better than the previous kind of one-sentence smell ordinance or not ordinance, not even a smell, it's just a subcategory of something. So this makes it more robust, not to any specific business, but Ellsworth-wide, so that our code officer has the tools to make sure that odorous smells that are offensive and noxious and hurting other businesses that, or recreational activities, other pieces that Robert really has the tools to move forward on it.
To give an example for what Charlie said, because this is for industrial and commercial uses, so say, for instance, somebody really hates the way that a cheeseburger smells cooking, and every time the McDonald's down the road smells like a cheeseburger, which would be every day, I would get a complaint. And therefore, if we put repeated offenses, somebody could single out that restaurant or any other restaurant in town, and if they have enough repeated offenses, maybe my hands would be tied. So having that discretion, that flexibility built into the ordinance is really what we're going for. So if there's someone or a business of some sort that has repeated offenses, I have that discretion, flexibility to be able to use my judgment on if it's actually an offensive odor or if it's just somebody, trying to get their least favorite restaurant in town closed, that sort of thing.
I will say too, that there are a couple of businesses that I worry about, that do put off odors off their property lines. And if you're not used to them, and we are all very used to a couple of them because they've been here for longer than I have, that too could happen. You could have someone new move in next door along the river, and then
Correct.
all of a sudden you're getting requests to make changes because their odor is going across their property line.
And I just to add an example of something like that, maybe it's just traumatic memory. I've locked it away, but I don't remember the old sewage plant smell at all. I drove by it every day as a kid.
Yeah.
But I don't remember
Everyone
it.
was used to it, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if somebody moved in on Water Street, they would probably have thought very differently.
Yep.
So there is that.
Tim, do you want to, if do you mind, would you like to just tell us where the changes are, and the reason that they have more teeth, in your opinion?
Sure. Good evening, councilors. My name is Tim Pease, city attorney with Redmond Winchell. And it's interesting, so I think from my perspective as someone who's had to enforce ordinances in court for 20-plus years, I actually look at the way this is drafted and think it's got more teeth than less teeth, and I can explain why. One of the changes that we included was, I think it was in section 6 or section 7 before, which said that in order for there to be something that the code enforcement officer could find as a violation, it had to occur for 15 minutes. And I talked with Robert a bit about that. I mean, the way this is going to work is the code enforcement officer is going to receive a complaint, and they're probably tied up with something else. And so it might be a little bit of time before they can get out there, set themselves up, be in a position to assess the situation. And I didn't like having a 15-minute requirement. I think the CEO should have maximum flexibility to make a determination, because a 2-minute smell that is truly offensive, really bad, might be just as bad as something that is 20 minutes but not quite as offensive. So the way that we've worked this out is to give maximum flexibility to the code enforcement officer. In terms of other teeth, we tied the amount of fines and enforcement and so forth to the statute, 30A MRSA 4452. And there are minimum daily fines there, and there's a range, and they can go up very high. In my experience, judges will take into account whether a violator has been willful and been basically trying to flout the law. And judges take this stuff very seriously. I would compare this ordinance to the way the noise ordinance is drafted, which says that a fine is not less than $50, but not more than $250. So I think the ability under the odor ordinance is to really get someone's attention is much higher. So in my view, I think it provides maximum flexibility to the city, which is what I understand you're looking for. Any questions?
I think if you could spend a little bit more time on section 7, that part of the concern may come from, in our conversation about this, there are 3 phases, A, B, and C.
Sure.
But in C, it says, this is like you've tried to be nice and it's not working, that the city may but is not required to file an enforcement action. And if you could speak to the reason, and I think it comes to what this conversation has been, that we need that flexibility so that he's not forced to put in. I think the example I used before was in Lewiston, there's the smell of baking bread when the Nissen Bakery is working, and some people may find that offensive, and so we needed that flexibility. So
Yeah,
why is that?
So I've always struggled, and I think lawyers generally do. If you had a requirement, the city shall file an enforcement action, well, all right, now you've got one course of action, and that's it. There may be other things that you could work out, consent agreements, and there may be other options other than simply running to court, because when you go to court, one, it takes a long time. The outcomes can be uncertain, so you may find another path that is better for the situation to get it corrected.
I hadn't thought of the timeline it takes when you take somebody to court.
Thank you.
Anything else? Counselor Howard?
I don't want to take away from your.
No, I'm just coming back in case you have any questions.
Oh.
No.
I just want to go on record as saying this. When I was elected the first time, the then city manager took me on a city tour. And he took me to the solar site near Maine Organics. And he had advised me that the city bent every rule possible to get Maine Organics to come to Ellsworth. Didn't think much of it. The minute I got elected, I started getting many phone calls and conversations about the odor at Maine Organics. I realize this is a general ordinance, but I think it's pertinent to bring this up. I reviewed the minutes from 17 for both planning board meetings. I watched both videos. And the previous code enforcement officer stood up here and said that we do have an odor ordinance, and it's in 801.3B. And it clearly says no land use or establishment shall be permitted to produce offensive or harmful odors perceptible beyond their property lines, measured either at the ground or habitable elevations. That seems to have gone, nothing seems to have been done with that for whatever reason. Then we get to a consent agreement, which I disagreed with, that giving this business a chance to break the rule that was already being broken. I was against that, and I'm against this. To me, this new ordinance is more hullabaloo about what's going on. And it's just one more protection for the offender and another violation for the people that are being offended. Just want to go on record and say that.
Well, I think our city attorney said the opposite, Steve, so I'm just gonna note that for the record, too.
Anything else? Do we have a motion?
Can we, assuming this passes, it would be nice to have an update in a number of months as it starts heating up. the climate,
Absolutely.
The weather gets hotter, the smells come
I'll
out.
give you a citywide update.
Exactly. This is not an ordinance for one business. This is an ordinance for the city. Does anybody have the,
It's a very
It's a
long
long
motion.
one.
There are
Yes,
four
I
whereases.
apologize for that.
Nancy,
It was
would
not
you
entirely my
volunteer to
idea.
make the
No,
motion?
my voice is not going to be able to do this entire motion.
Maybe Tammy would volunteer.
I'm ready
She
to
did such a
I'm
good
ready
job
to
the first
second.
time.
please?
Okay. Whereas the city of Ellsworth recognizes the importance of maintaining a clean and healthy environment for its residents, businesses, and visitors, and whereas excessive and pertinent odors can negatively impact public health, quality of life, and economic development within the community, and whereas it is in the best interest of the city to establish reasonable regulations to prevent and mitigate nuisance odors from industrial, commercial, agriculture, and residential sources while balancing the rights and interests of property owners and businesses, and whereas the city council has reviewed the proposed amended odor ordinance, which establishes clear definitions, thresholds, enforcement mechanisms, and penalties for violations. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council of Ellsworth hereby adopts chapter 66 odor ordinance for new and existing commercial and industrial uses as presented, effective immediately upon passage and in accordance with applicable laws, and be it further resolved that the city manager and relevant departments shall take the necessary steps to implement and enforce this ordinance, including public outreach and education as appropriate.
Do you have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion?
with a question.
Oh.
In the whereas number 3, we've been talking about this as industrial and commercial. But the word residential sources is in there. And I wonder if we can have a discussion about striking that word, or why is the word residential in there? I did not read all of the whereases when I was
I didn't
reviewing the
either.
ordinance last night.
I didn't even read it when she just said it, because I missed it.
I
Neither
totally
did I.
missed that, yes, I apologize.
Then I would offer a friendly amendment to remove the word residential.
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
Can I
Yep,
make a comment? I was a part of the last discussion with the last ordinance where the result was to suggest a consent agreement, and most of the issue we were dealing with was a lack of specificity with the ordinance, which I think this addresses. It may not address all the issues that are happening in the city, it may not be the right move, but it is an actionable move forward. It's a try, we'll evaluate, we want to keep hearing from citizens to see if this is working, hear back from code enforcement to make sure, this is doing what we want it to do, and if not, we'll try to redress it again.
Promptly.
Yes.
Yeah, and to your point, John, I was just thinking, well, hey, what if residents did, and then we might need to come back. It's like, this is where we think it, I think it's a good edit on the residential, but everybody's making a good faith effort here, for the best Ellsworth. So, we'll, to your point, John, on reporting back and, to the council, to the pieces, we'll be on it.
And again, just I think the final questions to Robert, does this give you what you need to deal with any issues that you think are going to arise? Even with the removal of the word residential, because that's not what
No,
we're going for.
Yeah, I think it gives me a better chance to address any smell issue that may arise, and it gives better enforcement,
Right.
options than the couple of sentences that I have to deal with in the general
Right.
odor ordinance.
And before, in one instance, you were stymied by the fact that there was a specific test, and this doesn't mention a specific test, but I assume you're going to use that tool now that there's a group of
Absolutely.
people.
With the
who
city
are
purchased
trained.
the imbutanol kit, and that is a tool I can use in court. I can use it as evidence in
Right.
court to back up my assertion that there was there was a
Great.
nuisance odor that needed to be addressed.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That one I can do.
All those in favor? Okay, we will take a 5-minute break.